Good morning all of you. Today we are going to discuss the topic priority interrupts, and that is subject computer organization and architecture. So let's start with the introduction. Why we are discussing interrupts? Because there is a pace in working style of CPU and the other input output devices whenever it is required to data transfer between the input output devices and CPU, then input output devices generates an interrupt. As written in the slide, data transfer between the CPU and the peripheral is initiated by the CPU. But the CPU cannot start the transfer unless the peripheral is ready to communicate with the CPU. When a device is ready to communicate with the CPU, it generates an interrupt signal. A number of input-output devices are attached to the computer system, and each device is able to generate an interrupt request. So, the main job of the interrupt system is to identify the source of the interrupt. There is also a possibility that several devices will request simultaneously for CPU communication. In this case, it has to service the interrupt. Okay. Then the interrupt system has to decide which device is to be serviced first. So here a picture of priority interrupt comes. A priority interrupt is a system which decides the priority at various devices, which generates the interrupt signal. At the same time, will be serviced by the CPU. The system has authority to decide which conditions are allowed to interrupt the CPU, while some other interrupt is being serviced. Okay, so this is the priority interrupt. Now priority interrupts, generally devices with high speed transfer such as magnetic disk are given high priority, and slow devices such as keyboards are given low priority. So on the basis of speed of processing of the different devices, the priorities are assigned. When two or more devices interrupts the computer simultaneously, the computer services this device with the higher priority. Okay, so now next one we are going to discuss the types of interrupts. Now basically there are two types of interrupts: hardware interrupts and software interrupts. So firstly we are going to discuss the hardware interrupts. When the signal for the processor is from an external device or hardware, then this interrupt is known as hardware interrupt. Let us consider an example. When we press any key or on our keyboard to do some action, then this pressing of key will generate an interrupt signal for the processor to perform certain action. Such an interrupt can be of two types. So the pressing of keyboard key is a kind of hardware interrupt, and this can be of two types. So maskable interrupt and non-maskable interrupt. What we mean by maskable interrupt? When in processing of an interrupt, if we can delay the interrupt processing, we can mask the interrupt processing, then this is known as maskable interrupt. And if we can't delay it, so then that category is known as non-maskable interrupt. Okay, now the software interrupt. The interrupts that is caused by any internal system of the computer system is known as software interrupt. It can be of two types: normal interrupts and exceptions. Normal interrupts are generally produced by the software instructions in normal processing of the any kind of program. Now exception are the unplanned events which is during the processing of a or during the execution of a program. When condition like the division by zero happens, then it will lead to a fatal. So such kind of events or such kind of unplanned actions are categorized under the exception, and it is broadly categorized under the software interrupts. Now Apart from these hardware interrupts and software interrupts, there is a daisy chaining priority. And daisy chaining priority, basically it is the priority mechanism for the if number of devices are connected with the computer system, then how we how computer system or central processing unit provides the services to the different devices on the basis of generation of the interrupt. So priority, as we know that priority are different priorities are set on the basis of speed of the processing of the different input output devices, and the request of the different input output devices are processed by the computer system. So here we are taking the example, like there are three devices, device 1, device 2, device 3, and all these are connected to the central processing unit, and they generate in between with the time they generate the interrupt request for the central processing unit, and on the basis of the priority set by seeing the priority table of the different devices, CPU acknowledge those devices and get their request is processed by the CPU. Okay, so this is the daisy chaining priority scheme in the computer system. Okay, so if any kind of doubt if you are having, you can ask me. Thank you.